Hello, everyone, and welcome to the October 21st, 2015 episode of Balls Deep Sports Talk with me, your host, Scotty Ball. Thank you for tuning in this fine Wednesday evening to hopefully enjoy, or if you don't enjoy with it, hopefully you strongly disagree with stuff here on the show. But this will be our 36th. That's hard to say. I can see where Ed Sheeran has troubles with it in that song. 36th, there we go, that was better, episode of Balls Deep Sports Talk here on WNLMradio.com. Now, last week, if you're a fan of the show and you follow on Twitter at BDST Show, or you're a friend and like on Facebook at Scotty-Ball, then you would have known that the radio station was down last Wednesday night, and thus the show was not able to air on WNLMradio.com until later in the week. I think Thursday night we might have got it up and running. It was either Thursday or Friday night. And then now, again, a friendly reminder, every Saturday, starting at noon and going anywhere from 7, 8 in the evening, there will be your weekly Balls Deep Marathon every Saturday on WNLMradio.com from here on out, starting at noon, where you can catch the 3 most recent episodes of the show. But so we had a few issues last week airing live. However, like I said, if you like and follow on Facebook and Twitter, you would know then that the show simply got moved to a different date and time that week, and you would also still be able to enjoy the show as soon as it was done on Wednesday via YouTube and Spreaker and TuneIn app and SoundCloud. Although I do believe that maybe a few of those were down Wednesday as well. It might have been until Thursday, somewhere in there. But that's why I can't stress enough, if you're a fan of the show, which hopefully and possibly obviously you are, I mean, after all, you're listening, so there's a 50-50 shot that it's not your first time, that you're not a Balls Deep virgin, and that you do in fact somewhat like the show. So if that is the case, again, please, it pays to follow the show on Twitter at BDST Show, and like and friend me on Facebook. Search Scotty-Ball. All right, so what do we have coming up on the show this evening? Well, I'm glad I asked because we have lots of good stuff coming up on the show tonight. Plenty of Major League Baseball to discuss, as the League Championship Series are in the heat of it as we speak, nearing a close perhaps, as there is a 3-game winner in each series so far. The Kansas City Royals have won 3 games against the Toronto Blue Jays, and we will get to the results of that game, which was earlier today, coming up on the baseball segment, as well as what's going on tonight with the Chicago Cubs facing a possible elimination sweep in the National League Championship Series at the hands of the New York Mets. So we will catch you up on that, as well as a giant gripe, issue, beef, whatever you want to call it, that I have with Major League Baseball at the moment, in which my prime example of why this is a problem and needs to be fixed and changed is revolving around the Mets-Cubs series. Also, of course, as every week now that it's football season, we will have tons of football to discuss. Both my Minnesota Vikings, who are back from their bye week and won over the Kansas City Chiefs at home this last Sunday. So you'll get the rundown from that, as well as preview of what they need to do, in my mind, this coming weekend to make it a perfect 2-0 sweep of the division rival Detroit Lions this Sunday in Detroit. And we will also be recapping league-wide everything that happened last week, as well as making our picks on the games for this weekend. We've also got college football to discuss, a crazy awesome unless you're, depending on who you're a fan of, I guess. If you're not a fan of really anybody, it was an incredible college football weekend. But a few schools, if you're their fans, it was one of the worst weekends ever. But so plenty of NCAA college football crazy insanity action from this past weekend to get you caught up on, as well as this coming weekend's matchups. I believe most of the games that were extremely compelling this last weekend were pointed out by yours truly as, big games to watch on last week's college preview. So we'll be talking, like I said, lots of college football, as well as a little bit of a state of the Golden Gophers update and where the maroon and gold stand in their season. I did say, the one thing I'll let you in on right now is that I said last week that they might not win another game all year. They were 4-2 going into the game last weekend against Nebraska, and I said on last week's show that there is a very good possibility that they will not win another game this year. I am definitely and the firm prediction I said was they won't win more than 2. That is for certain. And so we'll get you caught up on how they fared at home. I'm pretty sure it was at TCF, I believe. Maybe it was in Nebraska, but anyway, they took on the Cornhuskers, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who came into the game 2-4 compared to the Gophers 4-2. So we'll catch up on that as well. Also, some college basketball to discuss. I know what you're thinking, but how can that be? It's not college basketball season, Scotty Ball. Well, yes, you're right. It's not college basketball season yet. It will be soon, and I am looking forward to that. But the college basketball news is in regards to a story that you heard talk here on last week's show regarding one Louisville basketball program, their grad assistant coach or whatever his title is, and recruits on recruiting trips and visits to the school, and head coach's Rick Pitino's awareness or lack of awareness of the events that were transpiring, which we will get into more detail later on in the show, and it is extremely juicy stuff, which you would know if you listened to the show last week, or if you just, follow sports outside of this show in general too, then you've probably also heard. But so we'll be having a little college basketball, University of Louisville, Rick Pitino, scandalous, juicy news to discuss. We'll also be touching on the NBA just a little bit, as the regular season for the NBA is very, very soon approaching. So I will fill you in on what you need to know for that, as well as a reminder of how the WNBA finals last week, which were on Wednesday night, the night of the show. So we'll give you just a tiny recap of that and reminder of what the results were there. Hockey, of course, we are underway in the NHL season. Your Minnesota Wild, or at least my Minnesota Wild, are 3-1-1. Their next game is tomorrow night against the Columbus Jackets, the only winless team in all of hockey at this point, 0-7. So we've got that to talk about, as well as, just taking a little quick look league-wide and giving you an idea of where, the standings look as of right now, this very early on in the long 82-game NHL season. Also a tiny bit of golf news to discuss in regards to 2 topics, one involving an upcoming British Open, I believe it's the 2019 British Open, and where that is going to be held. Quickie-worthy interesting, I thought, when I saw the news, at least for golf fans. And then also a little Tiger Woods news, or some non-Tiger Woods news, maybe, perhaps, also. But that very little bit of golf to discuss. We will be discussing, and I say this confidently because I did the research and I'm not going to let it go to waste, certainly. But we are 110% that's a BC 110% guarantee, going to be talking some NASCAR in the show tonight. That is right. I am going to attempt to talk some NASCAR. We are in the chase for the Cup now. Every race we're drivers are cementing their spots in the final eliminator round of 8, and other drivers are getting eliminated from contention, and it's super close. The guy that's in 8th place has like a 4-point lead over the next guy and an 8-point lead over the next guy, and it's just, man, it's good stuff if you're a NASCAR racing fan. And it is their playoffs, and we try to be completely 100% equal, equal attention, equal rights, equal interest here on the old Balls Deep Sports Talk show. So plenty of NASCAR to discuss, much more than usual, because usual is none. So, what I've said right now is more than usual. And then also, of course, we will have some pro wrestling to discuss, because while this is a sports talk show, I like pro wrestling. I acknowledge and respect the athletic elements that go into the product and the performance. And I like it, and it's my show. So I do what I want. I'm like Cartman, whatever. I do what I want. So we'll be talking pro wrestling. That will include a preview of this Sunday, as a matter of fact, upcoming WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So we've got that to look forward to. WWE fans, as I am, know that there is one Sunday every month it's the best Sunday of the month, and that is the Sunday that WWE has their pay-per-view on. Especially now that it is football season, and you can watch football all day, and then watch WWE pay-per-view at night, and then maybe even if you're lucky, your hockey team's playing a West Coast game, and you can catch, a late-night hockey game after the WWE pay-per-view ends. But so we'll be talking WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up this Sunday. Not too in-depth, but just giving you kind of a general overview of the match card as it stands right now, at least, and just the general state of the WWE as their Raw ratings continue to plummet to record all-time lows for the show week after week. Also be getting you up to speed on just a few new transpirings in the NXT world, which anybody who's a fan that's watching both products as I am knows it's way better than WWE, even though it is a WWE product. It's their developmental, brand or whatever is what it originated as, but it's really become just its own thriving independent thing, run by Paul Levesque, also known as, or better known as, Triple H. It's pretty much his thing. He creatively is in charge of the vast majority of everything going on there, and that's why it's so good, and that's why it's so frustrating when you're watching the WWE programming that he's, billed as being a big part of, control-wise and creatively, to see that none of, very few of his actual, ideas and ways about doing things from a company standpoint just get completely pushed to the side, and Vince does the same old garbage that Vince has always done and preferred to do. But so a few new things in the NXT world to get you up to speed on, primarily involving divas, or in NXT they're just called women, just called women. Women's a way better term than diva, for the record. But so little news there, and then a first for me here on the show, via popular demand, to a long-time dedicated show listener and supporter who is also a fellow Twins fan, a fellow Wild fan, a fellow WWE and pro wrestling fan. We got into a Twitter conversation this past Monday night, shortly after me and Corey Graves of the WWE were communicating via Twitter. He actually